The town of Harmony Ridge had always cherished its tranquility. Nestled in a picturesque valley, it was a place where time seemed to stand still, and the worries of the world felt a million miles away. Nestled amidst rolling hills, it was a sanctuary from the chaos of city life. The townsfolk enjoyed a simple existence, surrounded by nature's beauty and the comforting rhythm of the seasons. But beneath the surface of Harmony Ridge's serenity, a darkness festered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the town, an unsettling feeling began to creep in. Whispers of a haunting presence, a spectre in the guise of a clown, began to circulate. The stories were always told in hushed tones, as if speaking too loudly might summon the very thing they feared. No one knew for sure when the rumors began. Some said it started with a child's nightmare. Others claimed it was the result of a prank gone wrong. But as the tales spread, so did the fear. Some spoke of an old carnival that met a tragic end, its twisted jester forever bound to the town. The carnival had once been a place of joy and laughter, but a terrible accident had turned it into a place of sorrow and loss. Others mentioned an abandoned asylum on the outskirts, a place where laughter echoed through empty halls. The asylum had been closed for decades, but the memories of its tormented inhabitants lingered. The origins of the horror clown remained shrouded in mystery. Some believed it was a restless spirit, others thought it was a curse placed upon the town, but no one could say for certain where it came from or why it chose Harmony Ridge. Each tale, more chilling than the last, painted a picture of an entity both malevolent and mischievous. The horror clown was said to delight in tormenting its victims, playing cruel tricks and leaving behind a trail of fear. The very air grew thick with anticipation and dread, for the legend of the horror clown had begun to take root. The townspeople could feel its presence, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The truth, like the clown itself, remained elusive. No one had ever seen it up close, but everyone knew someone who had a story to tell. The fear was palpable, and it grew with each passing day. It lurked in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal itself. The townspeople tried to go about their lives, but the sense of impending doom was impossible to ignore. And as Halloween approached, the town of Harmony Ridge braced for the return of its most unwelcome visitor. The streets were decorated with pumpkins and cobwebs, but the festive atmosphere was overshadowed by a sense of fear. The horror clown was coming, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The first sightings were dismissed as pranks, teenagers seeking thrills under the cover of darkness. It was the kind of thing that happened every year around Halloween, a time when the veil between reality and imagination seemed to thin. The local kids, always looking for a scare, would dare each other to venture into the night, hoping to catch a glimpse of something eerie. They'd return with wild stories, their eyes wide with excitement and fear, but no one took them seriously. After all, it was just part of the seasonal fun, right? A flash of white face paint in a darkened window. It was a fleeting image, there one moment and gone the next, like a ghostly apparition. Some said it was just a trick of the light, a reflection or perhaps a figment of an overactive imagination. But those who saw it knew better. They felt a chill run down their spine, a primal fear that told them this was no ordinary prank. The face was too real, too menacing to be a mere illusion. The distant echo of maniacal laughter on a moonless night. It would start softly, almost imperceptibly, and then grow louder, more insistent, until it seemed to surround you. The laughter was high-pitched, almost inhuman, and it sent shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. People would stop in their tracks, their hearts pounding, straining to see through the darkness. But there was nothing to see, only the oppressive blackness of the night and that haunting, mocking laughter. But as the weeks turned into months, the encounters grew bolder, more frequent. What started as isolated incidents soon became a pattern, a series of events that could no longer be ignored. The clown was no longer content to lurk in the shadows. It began to appear in more public places, its presence a dark stain on the fabric of the town. People started to talk, to share their experiences, and a sense of unease settled over Harmony Ridge like a thick fog.
Mrs. Hathaway, who lived at the edge of town, claimed to have seen the clown peering at her through a crack in her curtains. She described its face in chilling detail: the white paint, the red nose, the dark, soulless eyes that seemed to bore into her very soul. She said it stood there for what felt like an eternity, just staring, before it finally vanished into the night. Mrs. Hathaway was a sensible woman, not prone to flights of fancy, and her account sent ripples of fear through the community. The children at Harmony Ridge Elementary whispered of a figure in the woods beyond the playground, its painted smile a grotesque mockery of joy. They spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously as they recounted their sightings. Some said the clown would wave at them, a slow, deliberate gesture that sent them running in terror. Others claimed it would just stand there, watching, its presence a silent threat. The teachers dismissed these stories as childish fantasies, but the children knew what they had seen.
A local newspaper, eager to capitalize on the growing unease, published a story about the clown. The headline screamed in bold letters, "Horror Clown Terrorizes Town." The article was filled with eyewitness accounts, each more terrifying than the last. It painted a picture of a town under siege, its residents living in fear of the next encounter. The story spread like wildfire, and soon Harmony Ridge was the talk of the region. They dubbed it the Horror Clown of Harmony Ridge, and with that moniker, the legend grew teeth. The name itself was enough to send shivers down the spine, conjuring images of a malevolent entity that thrived on fear. The Horror Clown became a symbol of the town's collective anxiety, a dark figure that haunted their dreams and stalked their waking hours. It was no longer just a story, it was a living nightmare. The article detailed alleged sightings, each more unsettling than the last. There were reports of the clown appearing in backyards, on deserted streets, even in the middle of crowded events. People described its movements as unnatural, almost otherworldly, and its eyes as empty voids that seemed to swallow the light. The more the story spread, the more people came forward with their own encounters, adding to the growing sense of dread. A chilling narrative began to emerge, woven from fear and speculation. The Horror Clown was no mere prankster, it was something far more sinister. It seemed to feed on the town's fear, growing stronger with each new sighting. People began to avoid going out at night, locking their doors and windows and keeping their children close. The once peaceful town of Harmony Ridge was now a place of shadows and whispers, its residents prisoners of their own fear. The Horror Clown was no mere prankster, it was something far more sinister. It was a dark presence that seemed to revel in the terror it caused, a malevolent force that thrived on the town's collective fear. Its appearances were unpredictable, its motives unclear, but one thing was certain: it was not going away. The people of Harmony Ridge were left to wonder what they had done to deserve such a curse, and what they could do to rid themselves of it. And as Halloween approached, the town held its breath, wondering what horrors this year would bring. The decorations went up as usual, but there was a palpable sense of dread in the air. Parents kept a close eye on their children, and the usual excitement of the season was overshadowed by a lingering fear. Everyone knew that the Horror Clown was still out there, waiting, and they could only hope that this Halloween would pass without incident. But deep down, they all knew that the nightmare was far from over. The air grew heavy with a palpable sense of dread as Halloween drew near. The once crisp and refreshing autumn air now felt thick and suffocating, as if the very atmosphere was conspiring to unsettle the residents of Harmony Ridge. The fog that rolled in each night seemed denser, more oppressive, cloaking the town in a shroud of mystery and fear. A strange tension settled over Harmony Ridge, a stark contrast to the vibrant autumn colours that adorned the trees. The leaves, usually a symbol of change and renewal, now seemed to whisper secrets of foreboding. The golden hues of fall, which once brought joy and warmth, now cast long, eerie shadows that danced menacingly in the twilight. The laughter of children playing, once a symphony of innocence, now seemed muted, tinged with an undercurrent of fear. Their games, once carefree and joyous, were now marked by frequent glances over their shoulders and a reluctance to stray too far from the safety of their homes. The playgrounds, once bustling with activity, now felt like stages set for an unseen horror. Parents, once content to let their children roam free, now kept them close. Their eyes, filled with worry, scanned the surroundings constantly, searching for any sign of danger. Conversations among adults were hushed, filled with speculation and fear as they tried to make sense of the unease that had gripped their town. The streets, once bustling with life, grew eerily quiet as dusk descended. The usual evening routines were abandoned, and an unnatural silence took hold. Streetlights flickered ominously, casting ghostly glows on the deserted roads. The once familiar and comforting sights of the neighborhood now seemed alien and threatening. A collective unease had settled over Harmony Ridge, a shared premonition of something wicked this way coming. The sense of community, once a source of strength, now felt like a fragile veneer barely holding back a tide of fear. Neighbors exchanged worried glances, their faces pale and drawn, as if they were all waiting for an inevitable calamity. Even the most skeptical residents couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The sensation of unseen eyes following their every move became an inescapable part of daily life. Whispers of sightings and strange occurrences spread like wildfire, feeding the growing paranoia. A quick glance over the shoulder, a sudden movement in the shadows, these became common reactions. The once mundane act of walking home at night now felt like a perilous journey through a haunted landscape. A sudden urge to lock the doors, these became second nature. Extra locks and security measures were installed, and the sound of deadbolts turning echoed through the night. The sense of safety within one's own home was now a fragile illusion, easily shattered by the slightest noise. The horror clown, whether a figment of their collective imagination or a tangible threat, had cast a long shadow over Harmony Ridge. Stories of encounters with the sinister figure spread, each more terrifying than the last. The clown's eerie grin and haunting presence became the stuff of nightmares, a symbol of the town's growing fear.
Even the most skeptical residents couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The sensation of unseen eyes following their every move became an inescapable part of daily life. Whispers of sightings and strange occurrences spread like wildfire, feeding the growing paranoia. A quick glance over the shoulder, a sudden movement in the shadows. These became common reactions. The once mundane act of walking home at night now felt like a perilous journey through a haunted landscape. A sudden urge to lock the doors, these became second nature. Extra locks and security measures were installed, and the sound of deadbolts turning echoed through the night. The sense of safety within one's own home was now a fragile illusion, easily shattered by the slightest noise. The horror clown, whether a figment of their collective imagination or a tangible threat, had cast a long shadow over Harmony Ridge. Stories of encounters with the sinister figure spread, each more terrifying than the last. The clown's eerie grin and haunting presence became the stuff of nightmares, a symbol of the town's growing fear.
The unsettling encounters escalated beyond mere sightings. Residents began to find strange and disturbing gifts left on their doorsteps. A single black balloon tied to a doorknob, swaying ominously in the breeze. A child's doll, its once cherubic face twisted into a grotesque sneer.
One morning, Mrs. Hathaway woke to find a small, intricately carved box on her porch. Inside, nestled on a bed of crimson velvet, lay a single decaying red rose. The scent, cloying and sweet, filled her with a sense of unspeakable dread.
These gifts, imbued with a sinister intent, served as chilling reminders of the unseen terror that lurked in their midst. The residents of Harmony Ridge were living in a nightmare, tormented by an entity that seemed to delight in their growing fear. The once peaceful community was now held captive to its own terror. Every shadow seemed to conceal the horror clown, every rustle of leaves a whisper of its approach. Their haven had become a hunting ground, and they were the prey.